This is David with the Paranormal-Activity podcast. There's been two events, so to speak, that happened in this last week. The first one was probably about 5 days ago. I'm laying in bed, I connect to the other side, nothing's going on, so I figure I'll look at the curtains for a while. So I can kind of see them moving, but it's really subtle. So I keep looking at them, and then eventually on like one of the folds of the curtain, it starts getting, it's already kind of dark anyway, of course, because I'm ready to go to bed. But then it starts getting like really black, like you're going into a dark closet, and I can still see movement. So I don't know if there was any evil, like either going in to that black space or coming out. But I don't remember seeing anything like that before. Even when I saw like the witch, handing things off, or looked like it appeared it was handing off to other people, it never had that kind of like that black, like a void, I guess is the best way to subscribe to it. So I thought that was kind of creepy, but I didn't see any any hands or anything. It just like someone had opened up a door and there's this void, and it was just solid black, and it went from the top of the curtains down to the bottom, but it stayed, that void stayed there for maybe, I don't know, maybe 15-20 seconds, which I kind of find surprising that it's it showed that long, because normally when I see evil, I'll see it for like 10 or 15 seconds and then that's it. But this lasted considerably longer. So I didn't think that was anything all that big. And so the next couple of days, nothing happened. So I figured, okay, they open up this void or whatever, and evil was doing what they're doing or whatever. And that was it. But I didn't see any activity like coming towards me or anything like that. So the next thing I noticed is that, I mentioned in the past, I have my two small aquariums, and then I sit on the bed, and then I feel, I don't know, it's the boy or the girl, the deceased children that followed me from that haunted house and from the Hotel Vendôme. So I sit on the bed, one sits on the right, one sits on the left, like they always do, and then I felt a third person sit down on the bed. And it was about the same weight that, there may be 20-25 pounds or something like that. So I'm starting to think, and I'm just guessing, but I wonder if another deceased child spirit followed me, or, saw those children and then followed them, to me, I guess is the best way to describe it. So, and if they're that small like the other two, I'm sure they don't realize that they're deceased. They're trying to figure out where they're at, which, for someone who's like 5 years old, that'd be basically impossible to understand, where you're at and why you're there. And the other thing is, I've checked at times, done some research. So if someone who's deceased and they're 5 years old, I don't know if they stay that age on the other side, when they pass on forever, or if they eventually, like evolve into like an adult lease mental-wise. I wouldn't think that's the case, but, everything I've read, it doesn't really go into much detail. So what I just said is just, my own, best guess. But I was really surprised, I sat on the right, then the other one sat on the left, and then someone sat a little bit behind me, and they all, it felt like the same amount of weight roughly. I'm sure it's not exact, but they all felt like they were about 20-25 pounds. But that was kind of a little bit weird in a way, because it's always been, they sit on the right, then sit on the left, and then someone sits behind me. So I assume that's a third deceased child. That's the only thing that makes sense, because I didn't feel like one of them get up and then sit down behind me. It had the right, the left, and then someone was right, almost directly behind me, sat down on the bed. So I assume that's a third deceased child. That's the only thing that would make sense. And, which is a good thing. I mean, if I'm helping them some way indirectly, that, that they followed those other two children to me, then that's great. I mean, it's better than more like those other two in that haunted hotel. And then I don't want to say strange, but kind of bizarre what happened last night. I'm laying in bed, and I checked on the other side, nothing. I look at the curtains, it all pretty much sees the same. So I look up at the ceiling, and I see the white light in its normal position, which is roughly, I don't know, maybe about 7 feet up the ceiling. So I just started watching it. I don't know why, I just did. And then, and this is a part and I've never seen this happen before. All of a sudden, the white light starts moving. Now, I've seen it, gain in length or shrink or gain in width and then shrink again. But the whole white light started moving from, me laying in bed, going from my left to the right. And at first I thought, it just probably the way I'm looking at it, but then it just kept on moving across the ceiling, and it wasn't moving that fast. I mean, from where it started and then where it ended probably took, I don't know, maybe a minute, maybe less, which was really, I've never seen that the whole time I've been looking at the white light. And the part that makes it even more unusual is that as it's moving across the ceiling, I see the outline of a man wearing like dark rimmed glasses. Now, I don't know who this is. I assume it had to be maybe some kind of saint or something. I'm sure not everyone just gets to be in the white light. That just, of course, educated guess, but the only thing that makes sense. But he looked at me for maybe, I don't know, 15, 20 seconds, and then he just kind of like backed up within the white light, and then he was gone. Now, I've seen a few things within the white light, but it's been a long time, but I've never seen an actual person looking at me. Which really, caught me off guard, that I'm looking to make sure that I'm seeing what I'm seeing. But it was a man, and he looked like he was maybe 30 or 40 years old. They just a rough guess. But I still remember his dark rimmed glasses looking at me. And so I assume that, I know that's a good thing, but I don't know who this person was. I didn't recognize him. It could be a saint from 50 years ago or whatever. I don't know, but that was that was pretty cool. But it kind of caught me off guard, because I can see this man with these dark rimmed glasses looking at me, and then he just backed away in there. So I must be doing something right. I've made my share of mistakes and my weaknesses and all that, but it was kind of cool, because I see this man looking back at me. And at first, I thought, it's not a person or resemble a person. But then I kept focusing on it, and it was a man with dark rimmed glasses, and he had, I think, kind of dark hair or something. But that was it. Because he's up on the ceiling, so he's maybe, from me laying on the bed to where the white light was at that time, that was probably maybe 9 feet away from me, I guess. But the room, of course, is pitch black, because I like it as dark as possible. But I felt blessed that this man's looking at me, and I assume, at least I'm hoping, it doesn't mean I did anything wrong, because if something wrong, I don't think he'd be looking at me. They'd have someone come over and smack me in the back of the head for if I'm doing something really bad or whatever. But I thought that was really cool that he's looking at me. So I assume that that's a good thing. If it's coming from the white light, it can't be bad, because I'm sure there's other ways they could, remind me, don't do this or don't do that. But you know, that's something I'm always going to kind of cherish, that this man in the white light was looking at me. So, you know, I'm proud of that. But that was kind of like the highlight. And the last thing I want to talk about, I think I'd only mentioned I was going to say a few things, but I keep talking. But anyway, I tried filming again in my bedroom. And this time I've kind of figured out how it looks better. So I'm going to start this weekend. And then, of course, you know, and then I'll go ahead and release it the following week. But that way, I moved the camera back. I got it on a tripod, and I moved it back so that way you can see almost, because most of the activity when you're looking at it on the film, it's going to be from the left, and then there's some activity on the right, but that's not very often. Most of it is like from the left to maybe halfway up through the middle. So that way, if you see anything, which I'm sure eventually you might see something, I'm not going to make any guarantees, but one thing that you might want to look at is that I have a surge protector on top of this box, you know, because that for the 2 aquariums. And evil's always going to be around where there's energy, so they're going to be around that surge protector. I don't know if they're going to be there all the time or whatever, but you might want to periodically check to see. And what it looks like that I've seen, it's when they're around the surge or any kind of energy, they're like, it's almost like a little ball spinning or in a chaotic way, because when I've seen them around energy, it just kind of like they're moving so quickly because they're feeding off that energy, because that's what they're looking for, because the more energy they get, the more powerful they are, and they can do, you know, attack more people or whatever. So I'm going to film, I think I'm going to normally start filming like on Saturday nights, at least fairly late, maybe around 11 o'clock or midnight, because that's when most of the activity happens. Not always, but most of the time it'll start around that time. So I'm going to film that. So when when I do release it next week, be sure if you see anything, because I'm going to review it myself, but you know, I could miss it easily or see something. But I don't want to give you the impression like, oh, every week you're going to see this or that. But over time, I know you're going to catch something. And the other times I tried filming, it just didn't work out that well. It looked kind of cheesy in a way. But I've been playing with it more and more, and I think I got it just in about the right position. So I don't want to move the camera back so far that you can see the whole windows from left, or the curtains from left to right. Because, like I say, most activities within 3/4 of the window, not the full one. I mean, every once in a while something will happen on the far right, but it's not very often. Most of it's from the left and a little bit past center. So I'm going to set it up like that. So, you know, next week, you know, let me know if you like it the way I do, you know, how it shows. And if you see, if you see anything, be sure to timestamp it, because I'm going to review it too, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to miss something. So, let me know in the comments if you think it's good, or if you don't like it, or, you know, if more people want to see the whole curtain, you know, from one window to the other side, that's fine too. So I appreciate everyone watching. Thanks.